15 minutes after 8 o'clock, you know what it's time to do. It's a Friday, and we're going to film school. We're going to go back to the 1980 comedy, drama, and I think, personally, one of the films with the best soundtracks ever. We're going to talk about a movie from 1983. I don't want to steal his thunder. Let's bring in Joe Fortunato, professor of film studies, and, of course, he's taking us to film school. Joe, take it from there, my friend.
Well, good morning, Ray. Good morning, everybody. And today we are going to look back at an early 80s classic, The Big Chill, from 1983, released September 30th, 1983. This was written and directed by Lawrence Kasdan, also co-written by Barbara Benedict. It stars a whole gaggle of people: Tom Berenger, Glenn Close, Jeff Goldblum, William Hurt, Kevin Kline, Mary Kay Place, Meg Tilly, JoBeth Williams. Let me take a breath. The billing order of the movie's 8 lead characters was alphabetical, to sort of be fair. And just a little insight, the reason I chose to do this movie today, or this week, is just last weekend, I went back to my college reunion. So I was inspired. I had a great time seeing old friends and such, and it really sort of got me thinking about that kind of relationship. And so I said, hey, you know what? This reminds me of The Big Chill. Let's talk about that. So that's sort of a little personal anecdote as to why we're doing that this week. The film got 3 Oscar nominations, including one for Best Picture. Glenn Close got a nomination for Supporting Actress and Original Screenplay as well. The film was selected as one of the top 10 films of the year by the National Board of Review in 1983. Now, Lawrence Kasdan also wrote The Empire Strikes Back and Raiders of the Lost Ark. He wrote those by himself, but due to his involvement in this film, The Big Chill, he could only commit part-time to writing Return of the Jedi with George Lucas. So he and George Lucas sort of took turns on alternate drafts because Kasdan was busy writing and directing The Big Chill. Now, the title is always sort of a conundrum for some people. What does that mean? Well, Kasdan himself sort of explains that The Big Chill sort of refers to that experience of cold adult reality after leaving the, quote, warm embrace of true friendship during college, and sort of that self-involvement that starts to dawn on you as you become an adult. Tom Berenger, one of the actors, sort of similarly described it as that period of life when you're beginning to realize you have limitations, that you're never going to accomplish certain goals and dreams, and suddenly you're not a kid anymore. So that's the impetus behind the title, The Big Chill, between all of these college friends. Now, the soundtrack of the movie was a huge hit and a big seller, and a big part of the popularity of that movie. It consisted of many 1960s rock-era songs, and because of the soundtrack success, dozens of TV commercials started using music from the same period. So that's sort of when we start that trend that really continues to this day of retro music in commercials. I think a lot of people probably already know this little bit of trivia, but if you don't, it's kind of an important one for this film. There were flashback scenes with Kevin Costner as a role, but were cut from the film. So Costner was not a big part, but a significant character in this film, and was cut, and he's still visible just on his wrist. His body is being dressed at the beginning of the film. That's not a spoiler because it's right at the beginning of the film. His character has committed suicide, and we see his wrist and his body being dressed for the funeral, and that's one of the things that brings all these friends together. But could have been Kevin Costner's early starring role.
Interesting. I did not know that little tidbit. Joe Fortunato with us. Okay, professor of film studies, film school with The Big Chill. And Joe, when you go back to the 80s, this movie, there started a trend, didn't it? We started to see those gatherings of stars, same time next year. A couple of different movies went with this same trend because it was a hot hand.
Yeah, and we had, there's a number of and it didn't just start here, but you're right. Yeah. It's kind of continued or increased, perhaps. We have these seminal movies that have a gaggle of stars that were, would be stars to be. We kind of can go back to American Graffiti, and around this same time we have something like Fast Times at Ridgemont High, and then a decade later, Dazed and Confused. So there's these films where there's all of these young actors and talents sort of before they break out, and this is certainly one of those. In fact, some of the talents that didn't get the roles, Kevin Kline actually met his future wife, Phoebe Cates. Look at how we're tying in Fast Times at Ridgemont High. He met his future wife, Phoebe Cates, when she auditioned for one of the parts in The Big Chill, which eventually went to Meg Tilly. She didn't get the part, but that's where he met his wife. Speaking of this large cast, before they began shooting, Lawrence Kasdan wanted the cast to really spend some significant rehearsing time together. So he had them rent out a house, and they spent some time together, more so than normally would happen in a film, because he wanted them to sort of build that effortless camaraderie that comes with being longtime friendships, or being longtime friends, and having longtime friendships that are depicted in the film. Talking about music, in scenes that they anticipated using music in the background, he would have the actors deliver their lines in voices louder than normal. And this was done so that when the songs were added to the soundtrack later, the lines could be heard clearly above the music and the sound, and it would sound sort of natural. One of the some other people, we always like to talk about casting, some other people that were considered for parts in the film: Sean Penn. We already talked about Kevin Costner. Mickey Rourke was offered a role but passed on it, and Valerie Bertinelli was also considered for a role, the one that B.B. Cates auditioned for.
Monster movie from 1983, The Big Chill, as we go to film school. And, the summertime season, it's a good time to go back and look at something like The Big Chill for sure. Joe Fortunato with us. Now, if you like this condensed version of film school, Joe and I already have something in the works for late July where he'll do an expansion again, and we're going to be back down to Jilly's. And Joe, I'll let you take it from there. Late July, we're going to do one of your favorite movies.
I can't wait, Ray. And yeah, it's a little ways off, but not too far to start planning and mark your calendar. And you can get tickets this far in advance. We're doing Fortunato Film School live. We are going to screen together Jaws on July 27th at Jilly's in Akron. And like I said, that's July 27th, and it starts at 11 a.m. Doors open. You can get a wonderful brunch there at Jilly's. And this time it's a little bit different for those who have been there in the past. The entry fee is only $5, but it also gives you a reserved table. So you get to choose your location. So you want to go in and go ahead and get your tickets now so that you can get the best seat in the house, or the one that you prefer, wherever that may be. And like I said, a very, very nominal $5. And then, of course, if you want to get brunch, you can. And that's at Jilly's Music Room, 111 North Main Street in Akron. And just go to Jilly's Music Room website. You can either go on Facebook and look up Fortunato Film School Jaws, and it'll take you to the link, or you can look up Jilly's Music Room, and it'll have a link where you can get the tickets. And I want to see everybody down there. We're going to have a really good time screening my favorite film live while I give live commentary, and then we'll talk about it afterwards.
This will be our third one. We've done Indiana Jones, and then we came back and we did Psycho last fall. And for Psycho, it was packed in there. So Joe's point is valid. If you want to just pay that nominal fee of $5, get your reserved table to get up close. And I can't wait for the Jaws film school with Joe. I know this is his favorite movie. I'm counting the days. It's going to be a lot of fun. If you want to, make sure you reserve that table. I'm sure we're going to have a packed house for that one. Joe, as always, my friend, thanks for making time for me Friday mornings. Always enjoyable. Always look forward to it, and we'll do it again next week.
I can't wait, Ray. See you then.
There you go. Joe Fortunato, film study professor.